OMTM and understanding the market. By the way, just to make clear, OMTM means one metric that matters. Okay, the one metric you should be following or focusing on. So the agenda for today is talk about first, it's time to grow. The questions you should be questioning yourself. Second, talking a little bit about the growth process. Then going specifically to the OMTM. And then a quick tour on the understanding the market. Okay. So, but first, short intro about myself. For the one that doesn't know me, I'm Brazilian, but I moved to Porto 18 years ago. Already more Portuguese than Brazilian. I studied software engineering here. I created 2 startups. One that failed miserably. The other one was doing some money, but not big enough to continue. Then I joined UPTech. The Science and Technological Park, University of Porto, where I spent 5 years helping startups. Then I did MBA, and then I started InfraSpeed as one of the startups here from Porto, and I have been focusing on that during the last 3 years. In the meanwhile, I was one of the founders, and I was part of the 500 program in San Francisco last year. So basically, what I share with you today is a mix of all that experiences. But then, let's talk about growth. The basic question you should ask, like, every startup should doing growth. You want to raise it? Want to say something? Yes, no? No. Let's do it. No. So, definitely, there is clear point that you should be focusing on the beginning, and once you reach it, you should focus on growth, and that's product market fit. Okay, I'm not going to be talking very much about it because Thiago is going to do a 1 hour talk about that. But basically, product market fit is the point, like it's not really a point, but it's more like a flow that you get the product that your market wants, okay? And it's not something fixed because the market's constantly changing what they want. So you are continuously improving the product to continuously on product market fit. So, and you should be, you can say, oh, I made already one, I closed one customer already, so I have product market fit. No, you don't have product market fit, you have product that customer fit. Okay. So when you have at least a large number, a large group of people or companies that really represent your market, then you have product market fit. And before you have that, there is no point of you trying to scale, because there's so much things you have to fix that will be losing money. Okay? So just for you to have an idea, the goal for the first phase is definitely get the product market fit. You should be focusing on engagement and retention and so on. That's no point of going so far here, but the core aspect here is, in the beginning, if you don't know who your customer is, if you don't know the pricing, if you don't know what channel works, what channel doesn't work, if you put more money or you put more effort or if you hire more people, you're going to be putting more water in a leaking bucket. Okay. And what means this leaking bucket? So in a typical sales funnel or marketing funnel, you probably will convert from leads, from people visiting your website, for people asking for an online demo, from people closing the deal. You're going to like losing percentage of this group of people on the way. So you should definitely try to iterate as much as you can first before investing heavily on that. So this should be your product or your company before being ready to scale. Okay? So the key concept here is fix before scaling. Then you can ask yourself, oh shit, I'm not ready to grow yet. What I'm doing here? So definitely you should be here, because definitely a lot of things you can learn during that week. But take care. So really focus on solving these big issues that you're going to see, especially today, like branding, like product market fit, like positioning, like mindset, before investing heavily. Okay. So, what do we mean by growth? In the 500 startup, they really have a full process of growing. Okay, and growing is not something like you grow hack. It's not something like you should do this, and that, and then you are growing. Okay, this doesn't work anymore. Actually, growth is much more like actually a mindset. It's something that you have to be focusing on, not just you, but the whole team. And actually, it's a continuous set of experiments. You try things, it works, you learn, and then you try new things, it doesn't work, you try other things, and you continually test things until you find what works for your market, what works for your product. Okay? This is like a general concept. General concept, what can be like the whole process. So you start with the objectives, then you have your personas, your messages, so who is your target and the way you want to talk with them, and then basically you have the whole source of ideas. So based on these objectives and these messages, where do you get ideas from? It can be from brainstorming, it can be from mentoring sessions, it can be surveys, it can be any kind of sources. And then we are going to end up with a backlog of ideas. Ideas about what can we do to grow. So we can do some email campaigns. We can do some advertisement on Facebook. We can do something in the middle of a football game to be on the news. So you can do any kind of ideas to be visible to your market, and then you somehow going to end up in a pipeline, going to test it, execute, then you measure, and then you feed again. This is just a more complex overview of a typical build, measure, learn concept. Build, measure, learn. Okay, all about this lean startup thing. But the key thing is everything starts with the goals. Where you want to go? What are your objectives? Okay. So focusing on that and going to this one metric that matters. You're going to find here a lot of sentences about how important it is to measure, and like Peter Drucker, the original sentence was measured improves, or the guy from GoDaddy say anything that's measured and watched improves, and in God we trust, all others must bring data. It's all about having measurement and improving based on that data. And again, this is the same concept that goes from the basis. You have your ideas, then you build, then you have a product, then you measure the outputs, then you have data, then you learn, and again, and again. This with marketing and sales is no different than product. You should always look at this in an iterative way, right? So, based on that, what should I measure, right? And normally, you kind of end up with this. You want to measure everything. Then you have this. After careful consideration of all these 437 charts, graphs, and metrics, I decide to throw up my hands, hit the liquor store, and guess no. Who's with me? So sometimes you get too much of data when you are obsessed with measure everything. And this concept of the one metric that matter is the concept of having like one metric that we should really focus on. Of course, you can keep track of a lot of different metrics, but you should really pay attention to one core metric that's really relevant for your business. Okay. few examples, actually too high level in my opinion actually, but number of transactions in Square, number of nights booked, number of monthly active users on Facebook. Each type of business, each type of startup should have different type of metrics that are most relevant. Okay. Mostly, if you are like in a app business or even in SaaS, should be about like engagement. How much people can you bring to the product, and retention. How many of them still with you after a few days, a few months, a few number of usage, right? And I want to share with you a little bit of the case of InfoSpeak. So remember the one metric I told you? Well, we have 21, I guess. So basically, it's not easy to have one metric that matter. Okay. So what we did, we gave 3 metrics to each functional area. So in the end of the day, I only care about the first 3. Okay. But then each department, each functional area have their own 3 metrics that they should get. And actually, most of them are going to lead to each other. So when you talk about marketing, we are talking about like content results. So how much people are seeing the content we are producing. So, and then how many demo requests are coming through our organic channel. When we're talking about sales, how many product demos we are doing and how many hot leads we have, how many closed customers we had during the last month. So all this divided by functional area give specifically 3 focus for the team. Okay. Each team has, they know, they are aware of where they should focus on. And by the way, if you compare like June last year and last month, then you really can see how the core metrics evolve if you focus on them. Okay. So, and when you talk about like the one metric that matters, that's not something static. Okay. It's not something that I decide today and during the rest of my life, this should be the one metric that matters. In the beginning, for us, was definitely churn. So we didn't really keep the retention on the customers. We really want the customers to stay with us, to enjoy the product, to enjoy the service. So we focus the attention on sales, on customer success, on marketing, on everyone to keep the customers happy. Okay. And then when we kind of nail it, then we decide to focus on MRR, like monthly recurring revenue. And then we start to sell more, sell faster. Okay. And that's when I say that when you decide that one metric that matters, the whole company should focus on that metric. And you should be doing like brainstorming internally to how each functional area can help that metric to get better. Okay. And then actually it's just natural. So if you have like good people, if you have the good product, even if you don't have it, you iterate until you have it. Okay. So this is the whole concept of focusing on. And if I go back here, once you have a clear view of what matters to you right now, what's the important measure of success for you right now, then you can put the whole growth process in place. I don't want to go much deep on that. As I said, this is supposed to be an introductory talk. When we have plenty of time with the week to explore in details each part of this. But the key takeaway of that part of the talk is if you try to get right everything, the most probable thing you will get everything wrong. Okay, you really should be focusing on what matters now and getting this right, and then jumping to the next step and getting right, and the next one and getting right, until you definitely have a continuous flow of growing for the company. Make sense? Any question at this stage?
How long did it took from first phase of looking at the shirt to move to the second beginning, which would be an hour?
Okay, I would say like in the first year we didn't focus on anything but products, so really developing the product. Then I would say it was like 12 months focusing on having customers happy, so focusing on churn. So yeah, 12 months, and then we are like another 12 months focused on MRR.
I'm very curious, during that process while you were like developing product, were you working with a set of customers and trying to work with them to get feedback? Or were you like kind of, I know you have expertise in the team that knew the segments you are targeting.
Yes, so the product started like really after the startup. So it started as a final project of my co-founder. So during like 2.5 years, it was a side project. He was doing together with the support of the faculty. But once we decided to go to the market, we definitely were looking for early adopters, anyone that could use the product and give that feedback.
But you would say you have like product market fit already, or
no, actually
early.
When I joined InfoSpeak, I thought it was like product market fit, but was not at all. So basically, we decided to go to the market, and then we tried to talk with customers with the idea of selling it, and the feedback was clear. Like, I really like this and this, but I still need this and that to even consider as a product. So I need to do like stock material consumption. I need KPIs to see what's worth. So 5, 6, 10 conversations with potential customers told us that was not ready to the market yet. So we spent like 2 months back in the garage, and then went back to talk with the customer, and then 1 month later we closed the first one, then another one.
Because I have this theory that in the beginning the only metric is number of conversations with customers.
Yes.
And it's kind of that. So.
Oh, definitely. Definitely in the beginning is learning, right? Should measure in learning. So how much I'm learning about the market, how much I'm learning about the products that the market wants. And definitely what should be focusing on until you have like the first customers. Once you have customers using the product, you should focusing on making that customers happy. It's way better to have 10 customers that really love your product than 100 customers, 1,000 customers that's it's okay, but I don't use that much. So on that perspective, definitely you should focus first on getting the product right, but this is what we're talking about on product market fit, right? So we are assuming, to talk on this level, we are assuming that you already have a product that your customers like to use. You already have customers, because it only makes sense if you have that. If you have 1,000 customers that don't like to use your product yet, there is no point of having 10 million users, because there's going to be a leaking bucket. Okay. More questions? No? Okay. So.
I think somebody had a question. Before we proceed, it's quite easy to say, oh, before you get product market fit, after you get product market fit, it's quite blurry.
Yes.
How did you know that you were ready to scale? Or to find your one metric that matters?
How do you know that
How
you're ready to
did you
scale?
know you need to speak at least?
It's hard to know. It's actually happens. This is conceptual things. Like product market fit is something conceptual. But in the end of the day, in the daily basis, what you are doing, you are trying to sell, and then you are trying to have your customers to use the products, and then this continuous effort leads to people saying yes to using the product, yes to buying the product, and then you try to sell again, and then less people say no. So it's not something that it's not a specific point. It's just like natural. If you do this like iterative process, both on product and both on the sales process and marketing and so on, and customer success, then the barriers start to get lower and things naturally start to grow. Make sense? It's not a specific point, it's something like a transition. Okay. Okay. So, based on that, I want to jump to the next stage. That's basically talk about different type of customers in your market. And actually, there is two different paradigms that I want to introduce, but we are going to see deeper on the day 3 and 4 and 5. And one interesting perspective is based on the post of Christopher Young from Point 9 Capital. That's basically, he says there is 5 different ways to have a 100 million business. Okay? And actually it's quite simple, it's mathematics. So if you have 1,000 customers paying you 100,000 per year, then you have 100 million business. Okay? So you have elephants as a type of customer. Okay? On the opposite end, if you have 10 million customers paying you $10, 10 euros per year, then you have again 100 million business, but then you have flies as potential customers. Okay, so this is just a metaphor of saying that depending of the size of your customers, depending of how much he pays to you, you should have different approach to reach that market. So, and when you talk about the revenue, normally you're also talking about the costs. So, a customer that pays 100,000 per year probably is more complex and more expensive to acquire than a customer that pays $10 per year, right? So, and that's the concept here again. So, when you have different type of customers, you also have different costs for this kind of customer. And here's just some like estimates of how much a freemium model or a self-service customer could cost you, like from $10 to $200. But if you have a full team of field sales, it can cost you $200,000 to acquire a customer. And that's why you have different approaches for acquiring different type of customers. So we are talking about small customers. Probably to be viable, you need to get any kind of viral load. Okay, like Uber, that's you can give a voucher to your friends if you invite them to join the app with you, or any kind of Candy Crush or something like this. This is what they call the user-generated marketing. Okay. Then for the rabbits, and rabbits we mean people paying 1,000 per year to your company. You can do some like paid marketing. And then the deers, you're going to do some inside sales. We're going to be talking about inside sales on the fourth day. That's basically doing mostly online sales, but like human sales, but online. And finally, the enterprise sales for the bigger accounts. Okay. So again, this is an introductory talk. We're going to be talking about this on the fourth day. You really should understand what type of customers is your customer. Okay. And especially focus on one type of customer. Because if you want to sell to the whole zoo, it's really complex. Okay, you have to make too many different strategies at the same time, and that means many different costs structures at the same time. If you have to do, if you need a sales account executive in each market, and you still need to spend $100,000 in ads, you have to double the cost. Okay? You really should understand what type of customer is yours and design the whole marketing and sales strategy coherent with that. Okay, consistent with that. Okay, last part. So, who knows about this graph? You have seen this before. Okay. So this is, to be honest, I don't know the source of this, but it's kind of common sense already. This was a study about how technology is adopted by the market based on different profile of people buying it. And it divides the market in 5 different layers. So the innovators, we'll talk about each of them, the early adopters, early majority, late majority, and finally the laggards. And to introduce this, I will show you a video first.
To stand out and be ridiculed. But what he's doing is so easy to follow. So here's his first follower with a crucial role. He's going to show everyone else how to follow. Now notice that the leader embraces him as an equal. So now it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Now there he is calling to his friends. Now if you notice that the first follower is actually an underestimated form of leadership in itself. It takes guts to stand out like that. The first follower is what transforms a lone nut into a leader. And here comes a second follower. Now it's not a lone nut, it's not 2 nuts, 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. So a movement must be public. It's important to show not just the leader, but the followers, because you find that new followers emulate the followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, and immediately after, 3 more people. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point. Now we've got a movement. So, notice that as more people join in, it's less risky. So those that were sitting on the fence before now have no reason not to. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, but they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. So, over the next minute, you'll see all of the those that prefer to stick with the crowd, because eventually they would be ridiculed for not joining in. And that's how you make a movement. But let's recap some lessons from this. So first, if you are the type, like the shirtless dancing guy, that is standing alone. Remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals. So it's clearly about the movement, not you. Okay, but we might have missed the real lesson here. The biggest lesson, if you noticed, did you catch it? Is that leadership is over-glorified. That yes, it was the shirtless guy who was first, and he'll get all the credit, but it was really the first follower that transformed the lone nut into a leader. So as we're told that we should all be leaders, that would be really ineffective. If you really care about starting a movement, have the courage to follow and show others how to follow. And when you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first one to stand up and join in. And what a perfect place to do that, TED. Thanks.
Okay. So, in this video, you had a little bit the idea of how people interact with something new. Okay. And we go back here. We'll see the video again in the end, but you can easily see who are the innovators, who are the first ones to join, who are the ones that after the first joining are okay to join. And then you start to have like the mass of people coming in, and then you have the late majority that are people that are not afraid to join because most of the people are already joined. Okay. And then you have the laggards that are only going to join if they are obliged to do so. So, but going to see a little bit of each of them. So the innovators are typically people that really want things because they are new. Okay. They are not much interested in the value of the product itself. They really care about being the first. There's a very small percentage of the population, only 3.5%. But normally they are young, they are willing to take risk because they want to have this visibility related to be the first to test. So they accept to take a lot of risk regarding that. Okay. Then, if we go to the early adopters, okay, normally people that do care about the product, so it's not just about being an innovator, but they are open to some risks because they like to test new things in the beginning. So there's slightly more description of the innovators. It's because they're more considered for decision regarding of having a more reliable opinion on the new product or service. Normally, these early adopters, as we're going to see in the next group, they are the opinion leaders. They are people that are the influencers on magazines, on a group of friends, on a family. Is that people that probably know the first to show up with something new in your group. Okay. Then the early majority, they are more conservative. It's the kind of people that need validation from someone else first. Okay, they even like the product, but they just don't want to be the first one. It's the kind of customer that say, "Oh, really like what we did. Do you have any customer?" No. Oh, okay, cool. Let's talk in 6 months, maybe. Okay, because they don't trust enough in innovation. They need validation from someone else they trust to be able to be willing to give this step to buy. And that's why these early adopters are so useful, because they unlock the rest of the pipeline. Okay. Basically, early majority looks for credibility and validation. Finally, the late majority is basically the ones that normally sit in the fence. Okay, they they only buy because they don't want to be left behind. When everybody's already buying, then when the innovators or the early adopters are already buying something else, is the time they buy because they don't want to be left behind. Okay. So only after the majority of society has adopted innovation, then they buy. They are followers. And finally, the laggards. The laggards is the people that only buy when they are obliged to do. It's the ones that still have this CRT computers or televisions, and then it gets broke, and then you go to the store. I want to buy the same one. Oh, but we don't sell this anymore. But I really like that one. Cannot find this one for me. Okay, it's the one that are stuck with the things they like, and they are afraid of moving to the new things. Okay? So they are the opposite of the innovators. Okay? So this is like a general concept of the type of profiles. And what's interesting is that probably you can see yourself in some of those profiles, but what's funny is that sometimes you are one profile on a personal level, you are another profile in a professional level, and actually companies is a mix of many different profiles of the people within. Okay. So, but based on this deeper view, I want you to see the video again and try to identify the profile.
Ladies and gentlemen, at TED we talk a lot about leadership and how to make a movement. So let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons from it.
So the lowness is you.
A leader needs the
It's
guts
your problem.
to stand out and be ridiculed. But what he's doing is so easy to follow. So here's his first follower with a crucial role. He's going to show
like the
everyone
innovators.
else how to
The
follow.
one just going
And
there
notice that
because
leader
it's
embraces
fast.
him as an equal. So now it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Now there he is calling to his friends. Now if you notice that the first follower is actually an underestimated form of leadership in itself. It takes guts to stand out like that. The first follower is what transforms a lone nut into a leader. And here comes a second follower. Now it's not a lone nut, it's not two nuts, 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. So a movement must be public. It's important to show not just the leader, but the followers, because you find that new followers emulate the followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, and immediately after,
It's
3
like
more
the early
people.
adopters, right?
Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point. Now we've got a movement. So, notice that as more people join in, it's less risky. So those that were sitting on the fence before now have no reason not to. They won't stand
And
out.
it's the early
They
maturity.
won't be ridiculed, but they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. So, over the next minute, you'll see all of the those that prefer to stick with the crowd, because eventually they would be ridiculed for not joining in. And that's
This is
how
like
you make
the
a
late
movement.
majority.
But let's recap some lessons from this. So, first, if you are the type, like the shirtless dancing guy, that is standing alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals. So it's clearly about the movement, not you. Okay, but we might have missed the real lesson here. The biggest lesson, if you noticed, did you catch it? Is that leadership is over-glorified. That yes,
My
it was the
favorite is
shirtless
the
guy
laggard.
first, and he'll get all the credit. But it was really the first follower that transformed the lone nut into a leader. So as we're told that we should all be leaders, that would be really ineffective. If you really care about starting a movement, have the courage to follow and show others how to follow. And when you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first one to stand up and join in. And what a perfect place to do that, TED. Thanks.
We only got up because we could not see what's going on. So, okay. So, but how can we apply this to your startups, to your products? Okay. The point is, when you start talking with customers in the beginning, you don't know what profile they are before talking to them, right? Of course, you can try to have some criteria to try to find them. For example, typically, like the leaders in the market are not innovators, okay? Because they have a standing position. But the second, the third, the fourth, that somehow should have to innovate to gain traction in the market, they are more open to innovation. But it's not easy to identify that before talking with customers. But once you go talk with your customers, and by the way, that's very different from off-the-shelf products, something that you want to sell online and not interacting human to human with customers, from like typical B2B direct sales companies, right? But I show you this because once you understand the type of customer it is, you should stop losing time with laggards if you find them earlier, okay? So if you go talk with a customer and the customer say, oh, I like it, but I prefer to see some traction and prefer to see some case study from a customer before moving in, you should not be forcing that customer to close the deal until you have that case studies to show him, because he's not going to close with you. Okay? So when you try to talk with customers, try to identify as much as you can like early adopters in that process and focus your attention on them. Okay. Because as we said before, they're going to unblock the whole pipeline of other kind of stuff. And that's why there is this concept of the chaff, okay, that clearly divides the market in two parts. And this type of customers, as you see, like only 16% of the market is people that are really open to new things, people that are going to buy new stuff. And you should focus your attention on them. Try to find them and nurture them. Okay? Because the rest of the market only going to pay attention to you if you get them, and also they need more than a concept. They need a full product. They need warranties. They need SLAs. They need a lot of new things that comes, other things that come on top of the product. Okay. So some extra tips on early adopters. First thing is you should sell the vision, not the product itself. Okay. When you go with a mock-up or with a beta version of the product, if someone decides to buy, they're not buying because of the beta, right? They buy because of what you're promising, what this beta product will be in the future. So there's no point of selling the beta. So you should say our vision is to have this and that, to allow you to do this and that. This is what we did so far. We're looking for someone to help us get that. Okay. And that kind of approach will be completely wrong with the late majority, with the laggard. But anyway, they're not going to buy anyway if it's doing that, right? And for early adopters and for innovators, it will be like perfect. They really want to get involved in an early stage of a product. Okay. But it makes sense in the beginning, and actually, I believe it makes sense for the whole life of the company. We already passed like this early adopter phase, and we're still just selling the vision. We still have much more than a beta. We have now much more than a beta version. We have a full product, but the customers is still buying the vision. Second, it's very useful to pick up a fight. Okay, if your product somehow is the opposite of something that's already in the market, is great to pick up that fight to win customers. So if you go talk with a customer and that customer really hates your competitor, okay, because they are using it and don't like it, they are looking for a new solution for ages. But then you still don't have the perfect solution to compete with that. But since they don't like it, and you offer a vision again of something better, he'd probably be willing to bet on you. Okay, he's probably not going to put the whole company on your shoulders because it'd be too risky. But he'd be willing to test it. He'd be willing to like put one department, one team to use the product for a while, to give you feedback on the vision that you're going to be able to give him a better solution than we have here, right? Okay. Second, as we said, with early adopters, try to get them on board as early as you can. And as early as you can be when you have nothing. When you have just a landing page or something like this, because they really like to get involved. And second, when you try to talk with someone on the vision of, I have this idea or I have this half product that want to become X, and I'm looking for your help, your support, your feedback, people are much more open to say yes. Then you reach there and say, I want to sell something. People don't want to buy stuff. They want to be forced to buy. So when you ask for help, people say more yes than when you ask for a sale. But the funny part is that once you ask for the help and they help you, a few months later, a few weeks later, you're going to sell. And the door is already open. So it's much easier to talk about sales with someone that already opened the door for you before. Okay. So again, it really depends on your type of customers, your profile, if you're selling to rats, to deers, to elephants, but definitely get them on board as early as you can. And this is really important, okay? When you ask for feedback for a potential customer, for a partner, and you don't react to that feedback, you lose everything you have. Okay, you lose your credibility with that customer. So it's critically important to react fast with what customers say. And when I say react fast, I'm not saying that you should implement what the customer said right away. Okay, if the customer suggests something that's like complex or it's not even in your roadmap, you just answer to the customer, say, oh, thank you for the feedback, we are studying this, and because of that, we are going to do only in 6 months. Okay. The thing you cannot do it is not answering, okay? Not giving feedback to the field. Okay. By the way, regarding that, at InfraSpeak, we have like almost 4 years of developing the product. And based on the feedback from customers, we have a roadmap with at least 3 years of development that we still need to do. And because of that, we are very busy with our roadmap. And one of the things we noticed is that some of our customers were asking for small details, like adding one column in one specific table or being able to export one specific metric, something that was very fast for us to do, things we could do in one day. Okay. But since we were too busy with like these big blocks of development, we could not have time for these small things. Then what we recently decided to do is every development cycle we save one day that's going to be used for these small things. Okay. So we have our roadmap, and then we have every 3 weeks, 1 day to do things that are not prioritary, but are simple and the customer asked for and makes sense. So we do during that day all these big things. So our customer success team can go back to the customer 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks after he asks something and say, here you go. You have already the product what you asked. Thank you for the feedback. Hope you like it. So reacting fast and saving time on your roadmap is important to keep the customers happy. Yes, we are on time. So yes, actually 4 minutes late. Questions? So, you don't understand anything, or it was so good that you had no questions?
Second one.
Second one?
Yeah, the second one.
Cool, thanks. So I guess we have a little break.
Yes, now we're gonna have a 10-minute coffee break. We're gonna have it like next to this room, so we can go there, and then we kick off once again in 10 minutes here with Ávila and product market fit.
Thank you.